The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Imperial flagship. Emperor Keltharin stood before the massive viewing screen, watching as another star system fell to the enemy. The Vorthak horde had taken 3 more worlds in just 2 days. Their bioships moved like hungry animals through space, eating everything in their path. "How many refugees this time?" the Emperor asked. His voice was tired. The war had been going on for 2 years now, and they were losing badly. Admiral Vexandra checked her datapad. 40,000 from the Kelrin system, Your Majesty. The evacuation ships are already heading to the inner colonies. She looked up at the Emperor. Her face was grim. "We lost another battle fleet trying to slow them down. Only 3 ships made it out." The Emperor closed his eyes. 3 ships out of 50. The math was simple and terrible. At this rate, the Xerian Galactic Empire would be gone within a year. The Vorthak were just too strong, too fast, and too hungry. "What about our allies?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "The Altarians are still fighting in their own space. The Zephyrians have gone silent. We think their homeworld fell last week." Vexandra's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. "Your Majesty, we need to consider falling back to the core worlds. Maybe we can make a stand there." The Emperor nodded slowly. It was not what he wanted to hear, but it might be their only choice. The Vorthak had come from the dark space between galaxies. No one knew why they had started their attack. They just consumed everything they found. Planets, ships, people. It all became food for their endless hunger. Far away from the Imperial capital, in a quiet part of space near the war zone, 12 large ships moved slowly through the darkness. They looked like cargo haulers, big, bulky vessels designed to carry goods from one planet to another. Their hulls were painted with the simple markings of the Terran Trade Consortium. Nothing special about them at all. On the bridge of the lead ship, Captain Deho studied the sensor readings. The ship was called the Morning Star, and like the others in the convoy, it looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a merchant vessel carrying supplies to colonies near the war zone. "Navigation report," Deho said quietly. He was a calm man in his 40s, with dark hair and steady hands. Nothing about him suggested he was anything more than a simple cargo captain. "We're on course for the Nexus trade station," replied Boram from her position at the navigation console. She was younger than the captain, maybe 30, with short black hair and quick eyes. "Travel time is 6 hours at current speed. Any ships in the area?" Deho asked. So Young looked up from her communication station. She was the youngest member of the bridge crew, barely 25, but very good at her job. "I'm picking up some chatter on the emergency channels. Looks like there was another battle near the Corlon system. The Imperials lost again." Deho nodded. The war news was always bad these days. The Vorthak seemed unstoppable. Their bioships could heal themselves during battle, and their weapons could eat through the strongest armor. Worse, they never seemed to run out of ships. For every one destroyed, 3 more would appear. "Captain," called out Taemin from the engineering station. He was a big man with rough hands and a serious face. "All systems are running smooth. The cargo is secure." He spoke in a way that suggested the cargo was more important than usual supplies. "Good," Deho said. He turned to look at the main screen, which showed the empty space ahead of them. But it was not really empty. His sensors were picking up something moving in their direction. "Something big. Contact on long-range sensors," Boram announced. "Multiple ships heading our way fast." So Young's fingers flew over her controls. "I'm getting readings on their ship types." She paused and her face went pale. "Captain, those are Vorthak raiders. At least 8 ships, maybe more." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Vorthak raiders were like sharks. They attacked anything they found, especially cargo ships that could not fight back. Or ships that looked like they could not fight back. "Time to intercept?" Deho asked. His voice was still calm. 15 minutes at their current speed," Boram replied. Deho stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. "So Young, open a channel to all ships in the convoy." "Code 7. So Young nodded and began working at her station. Code 7 was not something merchant ships usually used. It was a military code, but the Vorthak would not know that. "All ships, this is Morning Star," Deho said into his communicator. "We have visitors coming. Prepare for Code 7 operations. Acknowledge." One by one, the other 11 ships in the convoy confirmed they had received the message. To anyone listening, it would sound like frightened merchants getting ready to surrender, but the captains of those ships were not frightened merchants. "Taman, start the warm-up sequence," Deho ordered quietly. "Yes, sir," Taman replied. He began pressing buttons on his console that definitely did not belong on a normal cargo ship. Deep inside the Morning Star, and inside all the other ships in the convoy, systems that had been sleeping began to wake up. "Contact the other ships again," Deho told So Young. "Tell them we're just a peaceful merchant convoy carrying medical supplies to the colonies. We are not armed and we surrender." So Young sent the message on the open emergency channel. Any ship in the area would hear it, including the approaching Vorthak. It was exactly what they would expect to hear from terrified merchants. "Sir," Boram said, "the Vorthak ships are changing course. They're moving to surround us." Deho smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "Of course they are. They think we're easy prey." He sat back down in his captain's chair and adjusted his uniform. It looked like a simple merchant captain's uniform, but the small patches on it told a different story to anyone who knew how to read them. "Visual contact in 5 minutes," Boram announced. "All stations, final preparations," Deho ordered. Around the bridge, his crew worked at their stations with the smooth efficiency of people who had done this many times before. They looked like merchant crew, but they moved like soldiers. The Vorthak ships appeared on the main screen. They were ugly things. Organic hulls that pulsed like living creatures covered in weapons that looked like claws and teeth. They moved through space like predators, confident and deadly. 8 ships confirmed, So Young reported. They're broadcasting a surrender demand. "Put it on speaker," Deho said. The bridge filled with the harsh, clicking language of the Vorthak. So Young's translation program converted it to standard galactic. "Prey ships will stop engines. Prepare for harvesting. Resistance brings pain." Deho stood up again. He looked at each member of his crew. They all nodded back at him. They were ready. "So Young, open a channel to the Vorthak ships," he ordered. "Channel open, sir." Deho's whole manner changed. The calm merchant captain was gone. In his place stood a military officer with steel in his voice. "This is Captain Deho of the Terran Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to withdraw before we show you why humanity does not need an invitation to your war." The Vorthak ships slowed, clearly confused by this response. They had expected begging, not threats. "All ships," Deho said into his communicator, "assume Formation 7, weapons free. Show them what we brought to the party." War Chief Gorthmak stared at the 12 human ships from the bridge of his biocruiser. The vessels looked fat and slow like all merchant ships, perfect prey for his raider pack. His ship pulsed with hunger, its living walls throbbing with the desire to feed. "Small prey speaks with big words," Gorthmak clicked to his crew. The other Vorthak warriors laughed, showing their sharp teeth. "We will eat their courage first, then their flesh." The human ships had stopped moving. They floated in space like sitting targets, just as Gorthmak had expected. The foolish creatures had even lowered their shields. Whatever they were planning, it would not matter. 8 Vorthak bioships against 12 helpless merchants was not even a fair fight. On the Morning Star, Captain Deho watched the enemy ships move closer. The Vorthak were being careful, but not careful enough. They still thought they were hunting prey instead of walking into a trap. "Distance to target?" Deho asked. 2,000 meters in closing, Boram replied from her station. Her fingers moved over controls that looked like navigation equipment, but were actually weapon targeting systems. "All ships report ready for Formation 7. So Young was busy at her communications console, but she was not trying to call for help. Instead, she was coordinating with the other ships in the convoy, using coded signals that the Vorthak could not understand. "All captains confirm weapons online and ready," she reported quietly. Taman checked his engineering displays. Deep inside the Morning Star, massive generators were now running at full power. The cargo holds were transforming, mechanical systems moving into position. "Power at 100%, Captain." All systems show green. The Vorthak ships were getting closer. Gorthmak could see the human vessels more clearly now. They were even bigger than he had thought, which meant more food for his pack. The thought made his bioship quiver with excitement. "Signal from the lead Vorthak ship," So Young announced. "They want us to prepare for boarding." Deho almost laughed. The Vorthak still had no idea what was about to happen. "Tell them we surrender completely. We will not resist," So Young sent the message. It was exactly what the Vorthak wanted to hear. Gorthmak's ship sent back a response that the translation computer converted as good prey. Death will be swift. How thoughtful of them, Deho said dryly. He looked around his bridge one more time. His crew was ready. They had trained for this moment for years. All ships begin transformation on my mark. The Vorthak ships were now only 1,000 meters away, close enough to see the details of their organic hulls, covered in weapons that looked like they had grown there instead of being built, close enough to smell the alien scent that all Vorthak ships carried, the smell of death and hunger. Gorthmak was pleased. The humans had not tried to run. They had not even tried to fight. They were going to be easy prey, just like all the other merchant ships his pack had caught. His bioship extended its feeding tentacles, getting ready to pierce the hull of the nearest human vessel. "Mark," Deho said quietly. What happened next was something the Vorthak had never seen before and would never forget. The 12 human ships began to change. Their hulls split open along hidden seams, unfolding like metal flowers. What had looked like cargo holds revealed themselves to be weapon bays filled with guns bigger than anything the Vorthak had ever faced. Missile tubes opened like hungry mouths. Energy cannons powered up with a blue glow that could be seen across space. But that was not the most shocking part. As the ships transformed, they moved closer together. Mechanical arms extended from their hulls, connecting ship to ship. In less than 30 seconds, the 12 separate merchant vessels had become one massive battle platform. A single warship, the size of a small moon. Gorthmak's jaw dropped open. This was impossible. Merchant ships did not do this. Merchant ships did not have weapons that could level planets. Merchant ships were not supposed to be military vessels in disguise. "What are you?" He transmitted to the human ship, his voice full of shock and growing fear. Deho's voice came back clear and strong. "We are the Terran Defense Force, and you just made a very big mistake." The human battle platform opened fire. The space around the Vorthak ships lit up like a star. Railgun rounds moving at incredible speed smashed into bioship hulls. Energy beams cut through organic armor like it was paper. Missiles exploded in chains of fire that consumed everything in their path. Gorthmak's ship tried to heal itself, as all Vorthak bioships could do. But the damage was coming too fast. The humans were using weapons specifically designed to stop biological regeneration. Every hit made his ship weaker instead of letting it recover. "Return fire," he screamed to his crew. The Vorthak ships launched their own attacks. Bioacid projectiles and living weapons that could eat through metal flew toward the human platform. But the humans had shields that the Vorthak had never seen before. Energy barriers that dissolved biological weapons before they could make contact. "Impossible," Gorthmak whispered. "Nothing can stop our weapons." Boram was coordinating the targeting from her station. "Enemy ship 3 is trying to escape. Shall I track it?" "Negative," Deho replied calmly. "Let it run. One survivor can spread the word about what they found here. The battle was already over." In less than 2 minutes, 7 of the 8 Vorthak ships had been destroyed. Their burning hulks drifted through space, no longer able to heal or fight. The 8th ship, badly damaged, was fleeing as fast as its wounded bioengines could carry it. Taman checked his systems. All weapons performed within normal parameters. "No damage to any of our ships," he paused. "Sir, should we pursue the survivor?" "No," Deho said, settling back into his captain's chair. "We wanted to escape. We wanted to tell the other Vorthak what it saw here." So Young was monitoring communication channels. "Captain, I'm picking up Imperial sensor scans from 3 systems away. They detected our weapons fire." "Let them look," Deho replied. "It's time for the galaxy to know that humanity has arrived." The human battle platform began to separate back into 12 individual ships. The transformation was just as smooth as before. But now the vessels looked different. They still appeared to be merchant ships, but anyone looking closely could see the hidden weapon ports and the advanced technology built into their hulls. "Set course for Nexus Station," Deho ordered. "Time to pay a visit to our galactic neighbors." "Yes, sir," Boram replied. "Estimated arrival in 4 hours." As the human convoy moved away from the battle site, they left behind the wreckage of 7 Vorthak bioships. The organic hulls were already beginning to dissolve in the vacuum of space, but the message they carried would last much longer. The galaxy had a new player in the war against the Vorthak, and this player had weapons and tactics that could turn the tide of the entire conflict. Gorthmak's surviving ship limped through hyperspace, carrying the impossible news back to the Vorthak fleet commanders. The war chief's report would be simple and terrifying. They had found prey that hunted back. In the depths of space, other merchant convoys just like Dehos were receiving new orders. The time for hiding was over. Humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they had been preparing for all these years. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Vexandra stared at the sensor data for the third time. The numbers did not make sense. According to the long-range scanners, 12 unknown ships had completely destroyed a Vorthak raider pack in less than 3 minutes. No survivors except for one badly damaged bioship that had fled the scene. "Run the scan again," she ordered her sensor officer. "Already done, Admiral," the young officer replied nervously. "The readings are the same. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. The power levels were enormous." Vexandra rubbed her temples. She had been fighting the Vorthak for 2 years, and in all that time she had never seen anything like this. The best Imperial battle fleets could barely handle 3 or 4 Vorthak ships. 8 raiders would have been enough to destroy most of their remaining forces. "What about ship identification?" she asked. "That's the strange part, Admiral. Before the battle, our sensors showed them as standard merchant vessels, Terran Trade Consortium markings. After the battle, the energy signatures suggest military-grade weapons and shields." Terrans? Vexandra had heard the name before, but only in old trade reports. Are they a new species? Her intelligence officer, a thin man named Kefalar, stepped forward. "We have limited data on them, Admiral. They appeared in our trade networks about 50 years ago. Small operations, mostly cargo hauling and raw material transport, nothing to suggest military capability." Vexandra looked at the battle data again. 12 cargo ships had just performed a military miracle. Either her sensors were completely wrong or these Terrans were much more than simple merchants. "Get me a direct line to the Emperor," she ordered. Meanwhile, on Nexus Station, the largest trading post in the contested zone, everyone was talking about the mysterious battle. The station's sensors had detected the energy burst from 3 systems away. Now rumors were flying through every bar and shop on the massive structure. Ambassador Jinne walked through the station's main corridor with calm confidence. She was a small woman in her 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. Her clothes were simple and practical, nothing that would draw attention. Behind her walked her small escort, Security Chief Wu Jin, a quiet man who seemed to notice everything, and Cultural Specialist Hanul, a young woman who spoke 17 different languages. They looked like exactly what they claimed to be, a minor diplomatic mission from a small trading consortium. No one on the station would have guessed that Jinne had spent the last 30 years planning for this exact moment. "Our ship has docked at Bay 94, Wu Jin reported quietly. "Local security did not give us any trouble. They think we are here to file a complaint about the Vorthak attacks on our shipping." "Perfect," Jinne replied. "Any word from Captain Deho?" "His convoy is 2 hours out," Hanul said, checking her communication device. The demonstration went exactly as planned. "The Imperial fleet is very interested in talking to us." Jinne smiled. After decades of watching from the shadows, humanity was finally ready to step onto the galactic stage. The timing was perfect. The Empire was desperate, the Vorthak were confident, and no one suspected that Earth's children had been preparing for war since the day they first learned about the galactic community. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Keltharan listened to Admiral Vexandra's report with growing amazement. The sensor data was impossible to ignore, but it was also impossible to believe. "You are telling me that a merchant convoy destroyed 8 Vorthak raiders?" the Emperor asked. "Yes, Your Majesty, and they did it without taking any damage themselves." Vexandra pulled up a holographic display showing the battle area. Our long-range scanners picked up the engagement. The energy patterns suggest weapons more advanced than anything we have. The Emperor's military council gathered around the display. General Morgan, an old warrior with many scars, shook his head in disbelief. "Impossible. The Vorthak bioships can heal themselves. Even our best battlecruisers need sustained fire to bring one down." "That's what I thought too," Vexandra said. "But look at this." She highlighted part of the sensor data. The weapons signatures show they were using some kind of anti-biological technology, something specifically designed to stop Vorthak regeneration. The room went quiet. Anti-biological weapons were theoretical at best. No one in the Empire had been able to develop anything that could permanently damage Vorthak bioships. "Who are these Terrans?" the Emperor asked. Intelligence Director Yul Mara stepped forward. He was a careful man who rarely spoke unless he was certain of his facts. Our records show them as a minor species from the Outer Rim. They have been operating small trade missions for several decades. No significant military presence, no advanced technology. Until now. Send a message to Nexus Station, the Emperor ordered. I want to speak with these Terrans immediately. Back on Nexus Station, Jene was enjoying a cup of tea in the diplomatic lounge when the Imperial message arrived. Hanul brought her the communication pad with a small smile. The Emperor wants to meet with us, Hanul reported. They are sending a fast courier ship to pick us up. How polite of them, Jene said, sipping her tea. Please send our reply. Tell them we would be honored to meet with His Majesty, but we prefer to conduct our business here on the station. We have some cargo ships arriving soon that might interest him. Wu Jin raised an eyebrow. Think they will accept that? They will, Ginny said confidently. They are desperate and we just showed them hope. They will come to us. She was right. Within 6 hours, a small Imperial fleet arrived at Nexus Station. Admiral Vexandra herself came aboard the station with a full diplomatic escort. The Admiral was a tall woman with silver hair and steady eyes. She had the look of someone who had seen too much war. Ginny met her in the station's main conference room. The two women studied each other carefully. Both were experienced negotiators who knew that first impressions mattered. Ambassador Ginny, Vexandra said formally. I am Admiral Vexandra of the Imperial Fleet. His Majesty has sent me to discuss your recent activities in our space. Admiral, Ginny replied with a polite bow. We are honored by your visit. I hope our merchant convoy did not cause any diplomatic problems by defending themselves against pirates. Vexandra almost smiled. The human woman was playing her cards very carefully. Merchant convoy? Our sensors suggest your ships had military-grade weapons. We live in dangerous times, Ginny said simply. Even merchants must be prepared to defend themselves. In another part of the station, Intelligence Officer Minho was analyzing every piece of data he could find about the mysterious battle. He was a young man, brilliant with computers and sensor analysis. What he was discovering made him more nervous with each passing hour. The battle had not been won by luck or superior firepower alone. The human ships had moved with perfect coordination, as if they were controlled by a single mind. Their weapons had targeted the exact weak points of each Vorthak ship. Most disturbing of all, they had used tactics that suggested they knew exactly how Vorthak bioships worked. Minho pulled up older trade records, looking for any sign that the Terrans had been studying galactic military technology. What he found was even more troubling. For 50 years, human merchant ships had been present at dozens of battles, always as innocent bystanders, always in position to observe and record. They have been watching us, he whispered to himself. All this time, they have been learning how we fight. On the bridge of the Morning Star, Captain Deho received the latest reports from his crew. The Imperial fleet was in position around Nexus Station. Ambassador Ginny was in talks with their military leaders. Everything was going according to plan. Orders from Fleet Command, So Young announced. We are authorized to proceed to Phase 2. Deho nodded. Phase 2 would reveal more of humanity's capabilities. Not everything. That would come later. But enough to show the galaxy that Earth's children were serious about joining the war. Signal the other ships, he ordered. Time to show our new friends what we really brought to this party. The Imperial throne room had never hosted visitors quite like these. Ambassador Ginny stood calmly before Emperor Kael'Tharan, her small diplomatic team arranged behind her. She looked completely ordinary, just another species representative seeking an audience. But everyone in the room knew that appearances could be deceiving. Your Majesty, Ginny began with a respectful bow, humanity offers an alliance against the Vorthak horde. In exchange, we seek formal recognition of our territorial claims and full trading rights within the Empire. General Morgan laughed harshly from his position near the throne. You offer us an alliance? Your entire species operates maybe 100 cargo ships. What could you possibly offer the Empire? Ginny smiled politely. Perhaps a demonstration would be helpful. She gestured to cultural specialist Hanul, who activated a holographic projector. The air above the throne room floor filled with tactical displays, showing the recent battle against the Vorthak raiders. This engagement took place 48 hours ago, Ginny explained. One of our patrol groups encountered a Vorthak raider pack. As you can see, the outcome was decisive. The hologram showed the 12 human ships transforming from innocent merchants into a single battle platform. The assembled Imperial court watched in stunned silence as the massive weapon systems emerged and began firing. The destruction of the Vorthak ships was swift and complete. "Impossible," whispered General Morgan. "Those weapons. Where did you get technology like that?" "We built it," Janae replied simply. Admiral Vexandra stepped forward. She had studied the sensor data for hours, but seeing the visual record made it even more impressive. "Your ships moved with perfect coordination. That level of tactical integration usually requires years of training." "You are correct," said Security Chief Wu Jin, speaking for the first time. "Our crews have been training together for decades." "Decades?" Emperor Kael'Tharan leaned forward on his throne. "How long has your species been preparing for war?" Jinae exchanged a look with her team. This was the moment they had been building toward. "Your Majesty, humanity has been aware of the galactic community for over a century. We have been actively preparing for the Vorthak threat for 50 years. The throne room erupted in shocked voices. Intelligence Director Yulmara pushed through the crowd of courtiers. "That is impossible. Our first contact with your species was 50 years ago, and you were clearly a primitive trading culture." "With respect, Director," Hanil said quietly, "you had first contact with our merchant marine, not with our government." The implications of that statement hit the room like a physical blow. Jinae continued calmly. "We have been observing galactic affairs since before the Vorthak emerged from dark space. When they began their attacks, we recognized the threat they represented to all biological life." She gestured again, and the hologram changed to show star charts of Vorthak expansion. "Their pattern is clear. They consume everything in their path, then move on to the next target. Eventually they would have reached human space. So you decided to intervene," Admiral Vexandra said, understanding dawning in her voice. "We decided to prepare," Ginny corrected. "The question was not whether we would fight the Vorthak, but when and where." Emperor Kael'Tharan stood up from his throne. "You are saying that you have been using our war as a training exercise?" "Not at all, Your Majesty." Jinae's voice became more serious. "We have been using your war as an intelligence-gathering operation. Every battle, every tactic, every weapon system, we have been studying and learning." General Morgan's face went red with anger. "You have been spying on us!" "We have been learning from you," Wu Jin replied calmly. "And from the Vorthak. And from every other species caught in this conflict." Jinae activated another holographic display. This one showed detailed technical specifications of Vorthak bioships. "We know exactly how their ships are built, how their weapons work, and how their regeneration systems function. We know because we have been fighting them for 50 years." The throne room went completely silent. Emperor Kael'Tharan slowly sat back down. "Fighting them? Where?" "In human space," Jinae said. "A Vorthak splinter fleet found our territory 47 years ago. They attacked 3 of our colonies before we stopped them." "You defeated them?" Admiral Vexandra asked. "We destroyed them completely," Hanul confirmed. "It took 18 months, but we learned everything we needed to know about Vorthak tactics and biology." Ginny changed the hologram again. Now it showed human warships. Not the modular merchant fighters, but sleek vessels designed purely for combat. Since then, we have been building fleets and developing weapons specifically designed to counter the Vorthak threat. Intelligence Officer Minho had been listening from the back of the room. Now he stepped forward, his face pale with realization. "The merchant ships. They were never really merchants, were they?" "Some were," Jinae admitted. "But many were intelligence-gathering platforms. We needed to understand the galactic community before we revealed ourselves." "How many ships do you have?" Emperor Kael'Tharan asked quietly. Jinae paused. This was the information that would change everything. "Our active fleet consists of approximately 8,000 combat vessels of various classes. We have another 12,000 ships in reserve." The numbers hit the room like a thunderbolt. The entire Imperial fleet at its peak had numbered less than 3,000 ships. And the humans had been hiding a force more than 6 times larger. 20,000 ships, General Morgan whispered. "Where? How?" "Our scouts have mapped every system in this region." "Human space is not in this region," Wu Jin explained. "We are from much further away. Our territory is separated from this galactic arm by approximately 20,000 light-years of empty space." Admiral Vexandra was staring at the tactical displays. You crossed 20,000 light-years to fight in our war. We crossed 20,000 light-years to fight our war, Gina corrected. The Vorthak are not your problem, Your Majesty. They are everyone's problem. If they finish consuming this region of space, they will eventually find our territory too. So you decided to stop them here, the Emperor said. We decided to stop them everywhere, Gina replied. But we needed to understand the enemy first. And we needed to understand the galactic community that we would be protecting. The hologram changed one more time, showing the current disposition of human forces. Ships were positioned throughout the contested zone, all disguised as merchant vessels or hidden in deep space. How long have your ships been in position? Admiral Vexandra asked. 6 months, Wujin replied. We have been waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves. And what makes this the right moment? Emperor Keltherin asked. Ginny looked directly at the Emperor. Because the Vorthak main fleet is about to arrive in this system. Our intelligence suggests they will be here within the next few hours. Alarms began blaring throughout the palace. A communications officer rushed into the throne room. Your Majesty, long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace disturbances at the edge of the system. Something big is coming out of jump space. Emperor Keltherin looked at Ginny with new respect. You knew they were coming. We have been tracking their movements for weeks, she confirmed. This system is their next major target. They plan to use it as a staging area for attacks on your core worlds. On how many ships? Admiral Vexandra demanded. Approximately 3,000 bioships, Hanul replied calmly. Including their command vessels and breeding ships. The Imperial Court erupted in panic. 3,000 Vorthak ships was more than their entire remaining fleet could handle. It would be a slaughter. Your Majesty, Jinae said, her voice cutting through the chaos. If you accept our alliance, we can stop them here. Today. Permanently. Emperor Keltherin looked around his throne room at the panicking courtiers and frightened military officers. Then he looked back at the small human woman who had just offered to save his empire. What do you need from us? He asked. Ginny smiled. Just stay out of our way, Your Majesty, and watch how humanity fights when we stop pretending to be merchants. The Vorthak fleet emerged from hyperspace like a nightmare coming to life. 3,000 bioships materialized at the edge of the star system, their organic hulls pulsing with malevolent energy. The largest vessels were the size of small moons, breeding ships that could create new warriors during battle. Command ships writhed through space like massive serpents, their psychic networks coordinating the entire fleet. At the center of the armada, Hive Mind Overlord Craxforth surveyed his new hunting ground from the bridge of his flagship. The creature was ancient beyond measure, its consciousness spread across dozens of bioships. This system would fall like all the others, and then the path to the Empire's core worlds would be open. On Nexus Station, emergency alarms screamed through every corridor. Imperial ships scrambled to defensive positions around the massive trading post, but everyone knew it was hopeless. The Empire's remaining fleet in this sector numbered less than 200 vessels. Against 3,000 Vorthak bioships, they would be swept aside like insects. Emperor Keltherin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with grim determination. All ships prepare for final defense pattern, he ordered. If this was to be the Empire's last battle, they would make it a memorable one. Ambassador Ginny stood beside the Emperor, her small frame dwarfed by the massive Imperial officers around her. She seemed completely calm, as if the approaching doom meant nothing to her. Your Majesty, she said quietly, might I suggest you move your ships back to a safer distance? We will not abandon the station, Emperor Keltherin replied firmly. We are not asking you to abandon it, Ginny said with a small smile. We are asking you to give us room to work. Admiral Vexandra looked up from her tactical console. Ambassador, with respect, your 12 ships cannot possibly handle a fleet of this size. 12 ships? Ginny seemed genuinely confused. Admiral, who said anything about 12 ships? Before anyone could ask what she meant, space around Nexus Station began to shimmer. The air itself seemed to ripple and bend as if reality was being torn apart. Then one by one ships began to appear. Not the disguised merchant vessels they had seen before, but sleek predators built for war. Human warships materialized by the dozens, then by the hundreds. They emerged from cloaking fields that had hidden them for months. their hulls gleaming with weapons and armor that made Imperial technology look primitive. Fighter squadrons swarmed around massive battle cruisers. Destroyer squadrons formed perfect attack formations. At the center of it all, a flagship that dwarfed even the largest Imperial vessels hung in space like a metal moon. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Vexandra. "Where did they all come from?" "We have been here for 6 months," Security Chief Wujin replied, "waiting for this moment." The human fleet numbered over 800 ships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. They moved with mechanical precision, taking positions that turned the space around Nexus Station into a death trap for anyone foolish enough to attack. From the flagship Soul's Vengeance, Admiral Hyun-soo coordinated the human response. He was a lean man in his 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. His command crew worked with the smooth efficiency of people who had trained together for decades. "All ships report ready for engagement," announced Captain Sung-min from his position at the tactical station. He was younger than the admiral, but his reputation as a fleet tactician was legendary among human forces. "Vorthak fleet is beginning their approach," reported Commander Yoonji from the sensor station. She was brilliant at reading enemy movement patterns, able to predict Vorthak tactics before they executed them. Admiral Hyun-soo studied the tactical display. The Vorthak were coming in their standard formation, command ships in the center, surrounded by layers of smaller vessels. It was a formation designed to overwhelm defenders through sheer numbers. "Signal to all ships," the admiral ordered. "Execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them what we learned from their previous attacks." The human fleet began to move, but they did not charge forward to meet the enemy, as Imperial tactics would have demanded. Instead, they spread out into a complex three-dimensional formation that seemed to make no sense. On the Vorthak flagship, Kraxvorth watched the human deployment with confusion. The prey ships were scattered across space with huge gaps between them. They would be easy to surround and destroy one by one. "Advance to feeding range," the Overlord commanded through the psychic network that connected all Vorthak ships. "Destroy the small fleet first, then consume the station." The bioships surged forward, their living hulls rippling with excitement. 3,000 vessels against 800 should be a simple victory. That was when the humans opened fire. The space between the scattered human ships suddenly filled with intersecting fields of energy. Weapons that had been hidden on asteroids and space debris revealed themselves, creating a crossfire pattern that caught the advancing Vorthak fleet in a deadly web. But this was not random shooting. Every weapon had been positioned based on detailed analysis of Vorthak movement patterns. The humans had studied 50 years of battle data to create the perfect trap. "Impossible," Kraxvorth roared as his ships began dying. "Their weapons penetrate our bioarmor." The human weapons were indeed different. Instead of trying to overwhelm Vorthak regeneration with massive energy output, they used precisely targeted attacks that disrupted the biological processes that allowed the ships to heal. Each hit made the bioships weaker instead of giving them a chance to recover. Navigator Boram, now serving on the Soul's Vengeance, coordinated the multi-vector attacks with mathematical precision. Sector 7 clear. Advancing to Sector 8. Communications Officer So Young managed the data networks that allowed perfect coordination across hundreds of ships. Every human vessel knew exactly what every other ship was doing, creating a level of tactical integration that the Vorthak had never faced. Engineer Taimin, working from the flagship's command center, oversaw the real-time adaptation of weapon systems. As Vorthak ships evolved new defenses, human weapons evolved to counter them, all within the span of minutes. The battle became a masterclass in applied military science. Where the Vorthak relied on biological superiority and overwhelming numbers, humanity employed precision, adaptation, and technology specifically designed to exploit biological weaknesses. Captain Daeho, now commanding a squadron of the new assault ships, led attack runs against Vorthak command vessels. His pilots moved with the fluid grace of people who had trained in zero gravity since childhood. "Target the neural nexus points," he ordered. "Cut their communications and they become just animals." The most devastating part of the human assault was not the weapons, but the electronic warfare. Specialist Dong Hyun led teams of technicians who had spent years learning how Vorthak bio-networks functioned. They began introducing chaos into the enemy's psychic connections, turning the hive mind's greatest strength into its greatest weakness. Vorthak ships began attacking each other as their coordination collapsed. Command vessels lost contact with their fleets. The massive armada that had seemed unstoppable began tearing itself apart. Cracksforth felt his consciousness fragmenting as the psychic network collapsed around him. For the first time in his ancient existence, he experienced something he had thought was impossible. Fear. "What are you?" he transmitted desperately to the human fleet. Admiral Hyon Su's reply was calm and professional. "We are the species you should have left alone. The battle was over in less than 4 hours. 3,000 Vorthak bioships had been reduced to drifting organic debris. Not a single human vessel had been destroyed, and only a handful had taken significant damage." In the aftermath, Emperor Keltharin stood on his bridge, trying to process what he had witnessed. The human fleet had not just won a victory, they had demonstrated a level of military capability that redefined what was possible. "Ambassador," he said to Jin'ei, who had watched the entire battle with serene confidence, "your people have just saved the Empire." "No, Your Majesty," Jin'ei replied gently. "We have just introduced ourselves properly. The real work begins now." 6 months later, the galaxy had stabilized under a new reality. Human-designed ships patrolled former Vorthak territory, while joint training academies taught allied species the art of modern warfare. The Empire's military had been rebuilt using human tactical doctrine and technology. Captain Daiho, now Admiral Daiho, oversaw the integration of human methods into allied fleets. His former merchant convoy crew had become instructors, teaching others how to appear harmless while carrying enough firepower to level planets. In the Imperial capital, a new treaty was signed establishing the Terran Imperial Defense Pact. But everyone understood the real truth. Humanity had not joined the galactic community as junior partners. They had quietly become its protectors and, in many ways, its leaders. The final ceremony took place on Nexus Station, now heavily fortified with human defensive systems. Ambassador Jin'ei, promoted to Director of Human Colonial Affairs, reviewed requests from dozens of species seeking human protection and alliance. As she approved each new partnership, she reflected on how far humanity had come. They had entered the galactic stage as hidden observers and mysterious merchants. Now they stood as the acknowledged,